Hello, I'm Dennis Clark from thepaintbasket.com, and I welcome you to my studio. And I'm asking you a question this afternoon. Do you want to be ahead of your fellow artists? And the secret and the surprise that I have for you now is that you can do that by enhancing your paintings in such a way that you know how to use the art of composition. And when you know that, then you know you're going to be streets ahead of them. Now come with me so that I can show you one of the 17 different types of composition, just to whet your appetite. Before I go any further, let's look at a bit of terminology here. The word balance has been used interchangeably between symmetrical and equilibrium compositions. While both have to do with balance, a clear distinction should be made between the two to enable a better understanding of these two concepts. If a painting is symmetrical, it means that one half is exactly proportional to the other half. And by implication, it means that the one half weighs exactly the same as the other. Automatically, the two halves are then constantly in balance and can never be otherwise. On the other hand, a state of equilibrium means that a state of balance has to be maintained. It means that an adjustment has to be made in order to achieve a perfect balance. A simple way of explaining it is by means of an ordinary scale. The one that uses a horizontal rod and a small bucket or pan at each end. When weights are added to the bucket to make the rod perfectly horizontal, a state of equilibrium has been attained. As long as these weights are not changed, the constant balance is maintained. Even if a slight change in distance is made, the balance will be disturbed. In this picture, the scales are unbalanced. More weight has to be added to the left pan in order to gain equilibrium. One will occasionally have this type of composition. This is a type of balance we will be using to illustrate the compositions of the following photographs. Various versions of the above can be seen in large firms and also in some workout gyms. Nowadays, the electronic scale is taking over. You normally climb on a moving platform and then have to move the sliding weight either towards a pivot point or away from it in order to completely balance the horizontal rod. And when the rod is completely horizontal, then your weight or mass is read off a scale on the rod. In order to understand the concept here more clearly, imagine the blue weight as the largest object, such as the figure in the next photograph, and the movable weight as the smaller object, the bucket in the picture. Also imagine the bottle as the hanging pivot point. If the large weight is fairly heavy, then the movable weight will have to be moved further away from the pivot point in order to balance the configuration. This is nicely illustrated in the photograph by the bottle being near to the figure. Can you now see that the mechanics of levers works perfectly in sync with this section of the arts? When looking at the following photographs in this video, keep a picture of the hanging scale in your mind. Keep imagining just where the position of the pivot point must be in order to achieve a nice optical balance between the objects in your painting. This photograph is a perfect example to illustrate the use of the hanging scale. As you can see, it is a large mass balanced by a smaller mass that is placed closer to the opposite edge of the painting. And here's one of my paintings as an example of the equilibrium type composition. Notice that it falls also into the triangle composition. I've not added the balancing illustration to the photograph here because I want you to start observing these balances in nature so that you can also act accordingly. Notice that the pivot point in this photograph is nearer the center between the two trees for balance. This photograph is also a three-spot composition. Remember to add color and leave out what you don't want in your painting. Also notice that I've crossed out the small tree on the left side, as it will distract and pull the eye away from the main trees. If left in the painting, learn by experience what to leave out when painting from a photograph. Take time to study and understand the equilibrium principle in all of these photographs, as they are representative of many, many landscape paintings.